Canada and the United States have struck a deal to open the Gordie Howe Bridge. My sources confirm the deal was finalized yesterday, and the bridge will open soon, likely by the end of July. The agreement was brokered in ongoing talks between U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and U.S. Ambassador to Canada Pete Hoekstra. They have been speaking with Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc and Canada's Ambassador to the U.S. Mark Wiseman. And this has all been happening in the weeks since the planned June opening of the bridge was cancelled. We're going to start there with our Reporter Roundtable. Robert Fife is the former Ottawa Bureau Chief for the Globe and Mail. They'll let him retire. We won't. Mia Rabson is the Deputy Parliamentary Bureau Chief at the Canadian Press. And Joel-Denis Bellavance is the Parliamentary Bureau Chief for La Presse. Good to see you all. JD, start with you. What do you make of this? We don't yet know the details. The Prime Minister said this week they're willing to clarify parts of the arrangement, not necessarily concessions, but we need to see exactly what happened.
There might be some money involved. That means that Michigan or the United States will get some a portion of the tolls that Canada wants to charge so that it gets reimbursed for the cost of building that bridge we paid for all. Now, the only remaining question to me is whether Mr. Trump has really signed off on this. That's a critical question, because if he hasn't, he may change the deal that we see on the horizon and reverse course. So I will see it when it's officially, a ribbon-cutting ceremony with everybody involved, and then Mr. Trump has signed off on it.
Yeah, Mia, a ceasefire on Gordie Howe? Ceasefires, who knows exactly how long this whole thing lasts,
and we know, how much those were worth after they were written. I think it's interesting that Mr. Lutnick was involved in this, because he was kind of one of the ones that, the conduit with the owners of the other bridge that kind of got in the way of this bridge. So the fact that he's involved gives me a little bit more, hope that maybe this is actually a solution that will.
He was the lead on it on the American side, right?
So that's positive. Also, one of the people that came out today to say that this deal had been done is running for the Senate in Michigan. That's got to be a tough campaign when you are running to be a senator in Michigan who wants this bridge open. I'm sure he's hearing about it.
Because Michigan is actually the other partner, right? Not the federal government.
So it's probably become a campaign issue for him. So he's been pushing for it. So there are positive signs on this. I don't know how much space Canadians will give Mark Carney to make another concession to the United States on giving them tolls. I mean, they didn't pay for the bridge. There was a deal. They were sort of reneging on that deal. One part of the agreement surely is going to affect Chinese EVs. The Americans have been clear they do not want any Chinese EVs coming over that bridge or any other bridge. So that might be part of the deal that's in discussions. But the big question is, what money is Canada willing to put on the table?
Yes, there is a point in the arrangement where the American side does start getting some of the toll revenue, but it's after repayment. I was cautioned today the Chinese thing, car thing, not necessarily part of this, but again, I don't know because we haven't got the details. Bob, your quick thoughts on what could be a peace deal?
I agree with JD that until we start seeing trucks roll over that bridge, I don't think we should accept anything, because the owner of the other bridge, who managed to delay this for over a month and a half because he gave money to one of Trump's PACs, I can just see him providing Don Jr. and his son with some money, some investment in cryptocurrency or whatever, and the president will pull the plug. I mean, this is an administration that is very greedy, that is, in essence, there's a lot of corruption going on in terms of, look at the New York Times did a big story about all the money that Trump and his family have received as a president sitting in, and so...
including a plane.
Including the $400 million plane from Qatar. So listen, my view on all this, let's wait for the details, and even then we see the details, wait till we see the trucks actually going over the bridge.
Well, what a time to be alive that you can take nothing at face value anymore with our most significant trading partner and ally. Okay, this news on the bridge, whatever it turns out to officially finally be, it does cap off what has been a busy week for the government and for the Prime Minister. Mark Carney picked a bid by Germany and Norway over a South Korean proposal to build Canada's new fleet of submarines. Then he picked some new senators, including his principal secretary, Tom Pitfield, and a sitting Conservative MP, Richard Martel, who will sit in the Senate as an independent, which is interesting. Then it was off to Saudi Arabia to reset relations with the Desert Kingdom, the first official visit by a Canadian Prime Minister in a quarter century. Now, it's also been an eventful week for Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, but not necessarily in a good way.
Future Premier of British Columbia, Carrie Lynn Finlay. Way to go. Fresh off a big win against Liberal lobbyists from out east.
Okay, that comment at the Stampede was seen by Caroline Elliott as gloating about her narrow loss to Kerry Lynn Findlay. It prompted this video, and then it unleashed a public airing of grievances by key players inside the Conservative Party. Bob, start with you on this one. Start with the Conservatives before we get to the Carney stuff. You know, Corey Teneycke, Anthony Kosh, Ben Woodfinden. I know the falling out with Teneycke, but Kosh and Woodfinden, they worked for Poilievre in the past. They were on the Elliott campaign too, and they've gone public talking about the intellectual poverty of the Conservatives and, you know, lecturing the state of the party.
Well, look, I've been following Twitter or X now, as I'm sure all of you have, and lately I haven't really been all that interested in because it's a cesspool of
Lately, it's been a cesspool? No, it hasn't. Only now?
You know, I mean, the last few years it's been a real cesspool. Yeah. But damn, it's interesting and fun to watch now. I mean, the Tories are throwing everything at each other. This party is falling apart before our very eyes, and they're delighted to spend time criticizing each other, smacking each other over the head, and it's not just over this issue. Yesterday, what's her first name for the Lewis?
Leslie Lewis and Michelle Rempel-Garner.
He came out criticizing the $13 billion AI investment in Alberta, which is, by the way, a huge big deal, and also electricity is, and it's a provincial deal, not a federal deal. And so Michelle Rempel-Garner, who is a Conservative MP, came out and attacked her. I mean, this whole thing is falling apart. Today, Conservatives are laughing at, if you haven't watched it, go on X and look at the Poilievre hamburger tweet, which is all about inflation. As hamburger prices have gone up, what was it? 600% in what, 30 years? Really, and it's all the Liberals' fault, of course, right? But Conservatives themselves are laughing at this, and so I think that Mr. Poilievre is in very serious trouble. He's lost control of his caucus. His party is deeply divided. And I think he's just hanging on by his fingernails right now. You
know, JD, message discipline was what everybody talked about for years with the Conservatives. Now we have Jamil Javani using the word degenerate to describe people like Gay Pride. We've got Dean Allison running his own thing, looking at COVID and vaccine injuries. And then you've got this infighting and unnecessary targeting of Conservative operatives. Like, it is fraying in a way I never thought we'd see.
Well, that's usually the history of a Conservative Party when power is not in sight. And that's what happened the election. And since then, we've seen cracks in the armor of Pierre Poilievre as leader, but also as the party. Party discipline was easy when power was so near, you know, them in the last election. You could see them. Now they're trying to maintain that discipline, but they feel like a bunch of parrots in the House of Commons reciting the same thing over and over again during question period, for example. And to me, like Bob, this is going to be the summer of discontent for the Conservative Party, which may lead to people calling openly for the departure of Mr. Poilievre.
You think that's like, I don't know what's Twitter, X noise, whatever it is, and what is real. So this is real news.
But these are MPs and senior party operatives that are fighting each other. It's not some ordinary grassroots
I'll point out something about the Quebec MPs, the Tory MPs. They were quite, very silent on Mr. Poilievre. Not silent, but supportive of him. One has left the party now. Richard Martel accepted a nomination in the Senate by Mark Carney. And that will open the door, I think, of more thinking, maybe people speaking more freely about the future of the party in Quebec. Also, if they lose the by-election that is coming up in that.
Martel sitting as an independent is a signal, right?
Yep.
Exactly. That is a real thing. Because he took a shadow cabinet post a week before he took a Senate post, right? So there's.
But I was told that he was in negotiations with the Liberals for a little while. But, was maybe too shy to say it openly.
Yeah.
And the Senate opening just, fine.
But he's going to end up sitting in the Conservative Senate caucus. Leo Housakis will.
But do you think he'll go to the larger Conservative caucus?
No, I don't think so.
Because senators do get to go to the Conservative caucus,
I don't think that Poilievre would let him, but I think Leo Housakis will invite him in to sit in the Senate caucus.
Mia, your thoughts on all?
I mean, that's just a floor crossing of a different flavor. He might not be sitting as a Liberal, but he was lured over by the Prime Minister who lured over all of the floor crossers. It's just not another good sign for Mr. Poilievre's leadership. And I mean, you can sort of laugh at some of the wild stuff that's happening. A lot lot on Twitter. I mean, I saw at one point, one of Poilievre's former communications directors fighting with someone else, and someone said, "Okay, guys, let's go behind the woodshed after school, and we'll settle this."
Yeah. 3 o'clock at the bike racks.
Exactly. And it was, it's funny, but it's also not. I mean, this is, the official opposition of Canada, and they don't know which way is up right now. They don't necessarily know who to trust. When you have the insiders who are saying, like Anthony Coach saying that they will never win Richard Martel's seat ever again on Twitter. Like, that is not a good sign of a healthy, confident party or one that's behind its leader.
Right. So just 2 quick things. One, on the Martel crossing, Melanie Joly did make a point of raising how often she has been speaking to him, which is an interesting thing. But Anthony Kosh, not just what he said on Twitter, this is in the National Post, right? Sun Media, Post Media. Somewhere along the line, a segment of the conservative movement stopped caring about victory and started treating politics like an ever-increasingly exclusive ideological club. They measure success by how many people on X tell them they are based. It is juvenile and unserious. It's one of the biggest reasons conservatives lose elections. They should be winning. Believe it or not, politics isn't about racking up likes and retweets. Like, this is a serious criticism of, like, what is happening with certain segments of the party, the echo chamber media of social media reinforcing, like, this will get clipped. We're all going to get tortured on X, so get ready for it, everybody. But they have influencers at their convention, which caused issues with some of the more mainstream, I would say, conservatives, oligarch conservatives. They do have a real culture battle brewing inside their ranks.
Absolutely, and it's a problem that the parties had, and many big tent parties have, is trying to figure out ways to bring all sides together. But when you have the leader of a party standing up in a microphone and criticizing other members of his party, I mean, he wanted to criticize Corey Tenayk. Those two obviously have no love lost behind them. But he went further than that, and others, they clearly took it personally, and it was like it just unleashed what they'd been feeling for a long time. They felt, well, now I can go public with this. And like, that's just, it's not a healthy place for the party to be starting a summer, because they're going to all these barbecue circuits and Stampede. This is what everyone's talking about. They're not talking about what they want them to be talking about.
There's a lot of chatter about it in Calgary at the Stampede, but Bob, Kerry Lynn Finley, who he was praising, she did win, but it was 51-49. It's not like it's a, Mark Carney, Chrystia Freeland thing. And what I'm hearing from BC Conservatives is like, he's made it harder for Kerry Lynn Finley now by sort of antagonizing the Elliott supporters. Well,
you mentioned Anthony Koch in his article in the National Post. Well, in the Toronto Sun, Brian Lilly, who has been a very strong
fan of the show,
is not a fan anymore. He may not. I'm talking about the Poilievre show.
Yeah, no, I got you.
And he was very critical of Poilievre for that very reason. Why are you dividing the party? The party has lost an election campaign. It needs to reunite and take aim at winning the next election campaign. If you're fighting inside the family, you are not going to win. And the problem with Mr. Carney is for Mr. Poilievre, he can't control his party, and he looks like he's not a serious alternative to the Prime Minister, which is why you see the Liberal numbers Mr. Carney's numbers, personal numbers.
Yeah, it's very much a Carney thing.
Well, and
way ahead.
They want to make it about the economy, the Conservatives. They want to attack Mr. Carney and the Liberals, or Prime Minister Carney, and the Liberals, for not being able to manage the economy. They wanted everyone to start using the recession word. And now we have a poll out this week that suggested that even with the economic numbers kind of shaky, more Canadians are actually backing Mr. Carney's plan, Prime Minister Carney's plan, than are not. And like, they just, the punches the Conservatives are trying to land on the Liberals are just not landing.
But you have to ignore all the global news to believe that so many of the problems are purely domestic in their creation, right? Like the Strait of Hormuz, the trade disruption, all of this. I mean, JD, Canadians are paying attention to this stuff in a way they probably have never had, and you can see it, what's causing so much.
That's a good point. Canadians are paying attention more to global news or international news as a result of what Mr. Trump is doing, because that captures our attention and it has immediate impact on our daily life. The Strait of Hormuz, the gas at the pump is, the price is ridiculously high still today. So to ignore that is to ignore, I would say, the reality of what we're facing, that we are in a global context, that we're affected by global events. We're not in an island, all ourselves with our swimsuit.
Well, look, let's pivot to some of the globe trotting that the Prime Minister is doing, because Bob, a big weeks of subs, senators, and Saudis, right? And they've moved quickly on making a decision on the sub announcement, choosing Germany and Norway, and a big celebration, right, with the German Chancellor and the Norwegian Prime Minister at NATO. What do you make of that decision and the promised economic benefits should it all go as planned on the commercial side?
Look, I think it was always probably going to end up that we were going to accept the German subs. First of all, because they actually make the subs, they're making a newer version of it, but the subs have been in use by NATO countries.
Yeah, a third of NATO, I think.
Right.
Uses them, right?
So, and the Prime Minister has, although he's very interested in obviously trade with Asia, his focus has largely been on trying to become more European as a counterweight to the United States. So I think it made a lot of sense. I'm sure the South Koreans were very disappointed and upset with it, because they did have a very serious bid and they do make very good subs. But I think it's probably also raised the profile of the South Koreans, so they may be able to sell those subs to other countries. I think just from a tactical and strategic point of view, it made really good sense. And of course, he announced it just before he went to the NATO meeting, and they were trying to demonstrate to the president and to other NATO allies that Canada's back at the table and is serious.
Yeah, I mean, JD, we saw, Mertz and Stohr from Germany and Norway, and Carney. I was joking to Evan Dyer, he should have used the line rub-a-dub-dub, 3 men in a sub, because they were celebrating this thing that the Conservatives are calling fake, right? And this is tens and tens and tens of billions of dollars of spending and maybe investment.
Yeah, and the sub, I think, should arrive by
2034, I think.
So that's, for a submarine of that nature, and we may get one earlier if, we need them. But for Mr. Carney, I think he played ANWA and TKMS, the German company, against each other to get the more benefits for Canada. But at the end of the day, I agree with Bob. I think it was just written on the wall that it was going to be the German winning this contract, because Mr. Carney wants Canada to be part of the program of rearming Europe.
Yeah.
If you do not, give something to Germany, such a key country in Europe, you risk of not being, taken seriously by other countries in Europe that you want to be part of the program.
And we're also trying to get a defense bank here.
Yep.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. So, it all made sense. And I think by the day, we're getting closer and closer to Europe. You see it. The Prime Minister wrote a letter with the Finnish president in The Economist about the new global reality and what kind of diplomacy Canada wants to do abroad.
They're going to be an interesting diplomatic and intellectual partnership, Mark Carney and Alexander Stubb.
Yeah.
They're like-minded on a lot of things,
Absolutely.
similar speeches at Davos. And Mia, when you look at the German-Norway decision, I mean, there's an operational practicality to it, too, that there's a parts ecosystem and an existing fleet within NATO that you can train on while you're waiting for your boats to show up.
Yeah, and there's also the ability to share the resources, including human resources, which Canada has to deal with. I mean, we basically have one working sub right now, so in order to...
And 3 oceans, yeah.
Exactly. So, they're practically, it just makes a lot of sense to go that route. This was also a decision, it sounds weird to some extent that it's fast, because it was, 18 months to get here, and now it's another 6 to 18 months, 12 to 18 months, maybe to get to a contract. This actually is very fast for these kinds of, I don't know that it doesn't necessarily seem fast, but these are not the kinds of things Canada has ever done well. We certainly haven't done them well in decades, and so it's the criticism that it's not happening fast enough is difficult to understand when these are it is happening faster than ever before.
No, finish.
And it's something that Mr. Carney said he wanted to do, and it's another step, not just economically, it's another step away from the United States, because Canada's reliance on the United States for defense is
they don't make the type of subs we're looking for, but the Global is another good example of that, which NATO wants.
Actually having subs that can defend ourselves and not relying on the United States.
Fair point.
And we may see the concrete results of that decision quite quickly. Why? Because the Canadian Marine wants to build places where you can renovate.
Shipyards, dry docks and jetties, all these things,
And that's gonna be
maintenance hubs in the ports.
Yeah. They want to build two, one in Halifax and one in Esquimalt in BC.
Yeah.
And I was told by the top official of the Royal Marine that as soon as the decision was going to land, they're going to start calling for proposals to build those things,
Right?
Because they want to be ready when the first sub arrives. And it's a massive construction. It's huge to be able to renovate and keep the maintenance of big subs in some places like that. So it's going to be a huge endeavor.
Okay, we've got 90 seconds left. I wanted to get a quick round. Bob, the first round of Senate appointments from this Prime Minister. Now, we talked about Mr. Martel. Tom Pitfield, Principal Secretary going in, will be an independent, not bringing back the Liberal caucus. But what do we make of this move that... I'm saying that just for precision, but yes, this is a partisan appointment, was to be the next I would say, right out of his office. So,
well, look, the Senate, the last few years, most of the people going into the Senate have been Liberals. And frankly, I think the Prime Minister would be wiser to simply call a spade a spade. We're all Liberals. We're going to form our own caucus. And this would work. It works better because these senators can then go in the Liberal caucus. They'll understand the legislative process that's going on. They can put in their 2 cents so that legislation doesn't get held up in the Senate, because in caucuses, a lot of this stuff is worked out. So I still think we're a long ways from, the damage that Trudeau did by not having. I think we do need. We need really good senators, not hacks, but we need. I think we need the caucus system, because this is a legislative body, and they have to work themselves out.
There's probably a sweet spot somewhere between where it was and where Trudeau tried to take it, where it works. Quick 20 seconds from you.
I don't expect bagmen of the party to be appointed to senators, so that's going to be done. But clearly, Mr. Carney wants people who understand the functioning of government to be sitting in that chamber. And also, I think he wants to give some oxygen to the opposition parties of the Conservative Party, even though Mr. Martel's his appointment is an interesting one, and he will be sitting as an independent, but I think with close links to the Conservative Party.
Okay, Mia, like 15 seconds.
I mean, I think this is Mr. Carney's first real foray at partisan politics, and perhaps putting his own, one of his chief advisors in the Senate gives him a bigger eye on what's going on there, because whether he sits in the caucus or not, you can guarantee he's going to know what's going on.
Poaching all those MPs might have been pretty partisan. I don't know. All right. Good to have you back, Bob, JD, and Mia. I'm David Cochran.